Hi, I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Rick and Morty Season 3, Episode 10, the Season 3 finale, the Rickchurian Mortydate. I know, I'm bummed that the season's already over too, but there's still plenty to talk about, details you might have missed, some deeper meaning behind why they decided to end the season like this, and a couple awesome Easter eggs they snuck into the animation. And before I start, thanks to our friends at Quid for sponsoring this video. Quid is an app that allows you to drag and drop stickers onto text message threads, including Rick and Morty themed ones, but more details on that later. Okay, let's get started with this episode's title, the Rickchurian Mortydate. This is a reference to the Manchurian Candidate, a political conspiracy thriller from the 60s and later a 2004 remake. It's about a plot to assassinate a presidential candidate and sneak in a brainwashed commie puppet into the Oval Office. Now, that storyline doesn't completely apply to this episode. It's honestly closer to the plot of the Ricklantis Mix-Up Citadel episode a few weeks back. But I do think the concept of a power struggle between the American presidency and a subversive force is a big influence on this episode. So let's actually go over all the other real-world pop culture influences this episode in our segment, Under the Influence. Okay, one thing you might have noticed this episode were these green location titles in the lower thirds. I thought that they're pretty unnecessary for the most part. Like, we know this is the White House and the Smith residence. The episode is just doing this as a stylistic nod to political thriller films. Like, you might recognize it from movies like Enemy of the State. And since this episode is set mostly in the White House, the president makes some fun references to American history.
Kennedy's sex tunnels?
Naturally, you'll forget you saw them. Along with, in order of national embarrassment, the Truman Cocaine Lounge, the McKinley Hooker Dump, and the Lincoln Slave Coliseum. He didn't free them all.
Now, the Kennedy sex tunnels are a reference to JFK's notorious affairs, including one with Marilyn Monroe, and the Lincoln Slave Coliseum is a reference to Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which they're joking was a cover for a darker truth where Lincoln would have made slaves fight each other like Calvin Candy and Django Unchained. Now, the president on this show, who made his first appearance in the Get Swifty episode, is never given a name, but he's clearly influenced by Barack Obama. This episode gives us a few references to the Obama administration.
I thought young dumb people considered it an honor to work for presidents.
Rick could be referencing the increased youth civil service after Obama was elected. This included actor Kal Penn, who quit the show House to work in the White House Office of Public Engagement. And then there was this line.
Let's set some boundaries with a spoiled control freak that thinks he runs the world and orders drone strikes to cope with his insecurity.
This could be a nod to Obama's expansion of the use of drone warfare. But to be fair, using drones to kill people is something every recent president has loved doing. You may have also noticed this old, crusty-looking advisor to the president. This character looks like he could be some combination of people like Steve Bannon or Dick Cheney or Henry Kissinger back in the day. Maybe some Winston Churchill thrown in there. And again, yeah, I'm not picking a side here. I think every president has had some creepy old guy whispering in his ear. And later in the episode, there's this exchange.
China doesn't piss on the White House.
Well, why would they? I'm sure it was expensive.
This is a great line that references China owning nearly half of the US's debt. Although apparently recently Japan now owns more debt. Like, I don't know. I'm not an expert on global economics. Either way, it's safe to say China has a crazy level of influence on the White House. Okay, moving away from political references before I start a war. Rick and Morty also reference plenty of pop culture this episode.
He treats us like Ghostbusters. I'm Doctor Who in this
So yeah, the device that Morty's using kind of looks like Spangler's PKE meter from Ghostbusters. But really both the Ghostbusters and Doctor Who were regularly called upon by dumb and inept government leaders to clean up after them. Obviously, both of these things are huge influences on the humor of Rick and Morty. And then when they go inside Minecraft, Rick calls out the South Park reference.
South Park did it 4 years ago, Morty. They're fast. Or we're slow.
So yeah, this is a reference to the South Park Season 17 episode, Informative Murder Porn, in which the parents play Minecraft. I just love how all of these great animated shows reference their past influencers. So South Park has a famously fast turnaround, with Parker and Stone writing and producing episodes within 6 days, which is a short enough time to cover topical news events. Whereas Rick and Morty, as we know, unfortunately has taken 2 years between seasons. Also, the line South Park did it is a South Park reference on another level. South Park coined the term Simpsons did it to vent the frustration that The Simpsons has covered pretty much every possible storyline for an animated show.
Simpsons did it! Simpsons did it! Don't have a cow, man.
And actually, that South Park episode was also the Sea People episode, with Cartman creating a microcosm society of sea people with rival religions who bomb each other. A lot like the Israelis and Palestinians, possibly an influence on the conflict that Rick pacifies this episode. And the Sea People society actually nuke each other to oblivion, which is possibly an influence on the nukes of the Mega Gargantuans this episode. And getting back to the Minecraft reference, notice how later a soldier ignites the president's portal with a lighter. This is a reference to how the the nether portals of Minecraft require flint and steel to activate. This episode also referenced old movies with campy shrinking and growing effects.
70s shrinking, party of one.
When your body awkwardly enlarges at the rate of a 50s movie.
I think Morty was referencing the movie The Fantastic Voyage, which is technically a 1968 movie. Either way, it was a past influence on the Anatomy Park episode, and the 50s movie mentioned was probably a nod to the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. Now, Rick's battle with the president through the White House was my favorite sequence of the episode. I'll get to all the little missable animation details later, but a few pop culture influences here. The gun that the president uses to lift and smash Rick on the floor looks like the gravity gun from Half-Life 2. He also uses this remote-controlled satellite laser, which could be a reference to the Hammer of Dawn and Gears of War, or the heat laser from the 007 movie Die Another Day. Now, these twins who attack Rick could be a reference to the psychic kids from Escape to Witch Mountain, but the way Rick fights them with this bow staff looks like it's influenced by Darth Maul's 2-on-1 battle in Phantom Menace. Actually, this episode did name drop Star Wars earlier.
An anonymous American diplomat took them to a Star Wars cantina.
Now, the president's robotic suit with the machine gun definitely has this James Cameron influence to it. Like, it looks like it could be based on the lifter from Aliens or the suit from Avatar. And these close-ups of the machine gun rounds depleting is taken directly from Aliens. Also, notice the way Rick creates this energy shield and then rolls around in it like a hamster. This seems like a visual reference to the Pixar film The Incredibles, when Dash rolls around inside Violet's shield through the jungle. Now, the other influence I caught came in this scene between Beth and Jerry.
My mind, my ideas are all part of the variable. The only constant is you.
So yeah, in this scene, Jerry is obviously referencing the 1997 movie Volcano, but I think this idea of a chaotic, frantic character needing a soulmate as their constant to ground himself is a reference to my favorite episode of the show Lost, The Constant, where Desmond's consciousness is jumping around in time until he's able to connect with Penny, his constant, his soulmate. Now, this episode ends with characters eating Panda Express.
I got Panda Express. Did you get sugar chicken? That's kind of the only thing they have.
I just love how this episode ends with a callback to the Smith family's love of sugary Chinese takeout, back to Rick's obsession with McDonald's Mulan Szechuan sauce in the season premiere.
I'll go out and I'll find some more of that Mulan Szechuan teriyaki dipping sauce, Morty.
By the way, McDonald's just announced that they're bringing that sauce back for one day on October 7th, which is awesome. Let's run through all the other in-series continuity callbacks in our segment, Callbacks! So early in the episode, the president describes the creature in the tunnels this way.
Some kind of alien Googa has infested the Kennedy sex tunnels.
Now, Googa is a callback to one of Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon's old Channel 101 shorts.
What the hell are these crazy Googas?
And I mentioned Anatomy Park before, but this episode makes two references to that episode. First, Rick making fun of the president for shrinking with pills is a reference to the much cooler and faster shrinking process in that episode. And before we get to the second reference, quickly, because I can't afford to work for free, this video is sponsored by Quid. Big thanks to them. Quid is an app where you can collect cool stickers, cards, and Funko figures for free all on your phone. If you use emojis and stickers when you text your friends, Quid has thousands of free stickers that you can't find anywhere else, from shows like the just released Game of Thrones, Rick and Morty, Steven Universe, Bob's Burgers, Powerpuff Girls, and Family Guy, cult hits like Breaking Bad and Star Trek, and for games like Five Nights at Freddy's and Fallout. You just drag and drop these stickers in iMessage. Ooh, so long, boring blue and white iMessage threads. And if you collect Funko Pop figures, Quid has those too. Now, some of these stickers, cards, and toys are super rare and hard to get, so good luck, but the good news is you can meet cool people on Quid, take a look at their collections, and trade with them as easily and as quickly as chatting with each other. There's also a new feature. You can showcase your collection by adding stickers to images you already have on your camera roll. Just check out the profile tab in iOS. New stickers, cards, and figures that you can collect for free are released every day, including a surprise big new show coming soon. Okay, a second reference to Anatomy Park came with this reveal about Rick.
Stand down. He's not afraid of pirates.
Oh, run, Morty! That part was true!
Now remember, the ride in Anatomy Park, Pirates of the Pancreas, was Rick's baby.
Pirates of the Pancreas was my baby. You know, I got a lot of pushback when I pitched it, Morty. I guess I'm still a little defensive.
So maybe the fact that he considers pirates to be genuinely terrifying was the reason he was so defensive of this ride's value as a thrill ride. I also like how Morty talks down to the president here.
Yeah, I learned about your job in school. You're a civil servant. We're technically your boss.
So this is a callback to all the times we've seen Morty in school on the show, learning basic, unimportant crap that he never really uses. All the important stuff that Morty learns, he learns from Rick outside of school. So Morty is saying to the president that he's so useless he was something he learned in a classroom. Burn. And I know some of you were bummed that we didn't see Evil Morty this episode, but Rick does allude to him with this callback.
I could be a clone. I could be a hologram. We could be clones controlled by robots controlled with special headsets that the real Rick and Morty are wearing while they're f***ing your mother.
This is a callback to the reveal of Evil Morty in season 1 with the robotic Rick who was being controlled remotely by Evil Morty with a special headset under his eye patch. And a few other visual callbacks. There were Jerry's golf clubs in his apartment, a callback to his crappy golfing skills in the Me Seeks and Destroy episode. Also in their cabin, they bring that framed photo of Snuffles the dog from season 1, who's been shown up pretty much every episode. And the post-credits scene has this meta fourth wall break by Mr. Poopy Butthole, which is a callback to the season 2 finale post-credits scene, which also featured Mr. Poopy Butthole teasing us about the long wait for the next season. And while we're talking about this meta joke, let's cover all the other meta humor in this episode with our segment, So Meta. So in the opening scene of the episode, there's this White House janitor with the glasses. This is an animated version of Rick and Morty writer Mike McMahon. There's also this line from Morty about Minecraft.
Good that I can store all this wood I'll need later for chest making. Okay, you're not gonna have fun if you analyze everything.
Oh, so meta. Yeah, this is commentary from the show on all the nerds online who overthink these episodes, which, yeah, totally includes us. And in the final scene, Beth breaks the fourth wall this way.
We're a real family now. In many ways, things will be like season 1, but more streamlined.
Beth is commenting on how this episode basically fixed and reset the season, restoring it to the simpler setups of the first season. Now, I'll dig more into that deeper meaning at the end, but first I want to point out all the missable animation jokes in the background, so let's go through frame by frame and zoom and enhance. Okay, so when Rick jumps through the portal into the White House, I love how he covers his martini with his hand so it doesn't spill. Also, notice inside that Star Wars Cantina Club, in the background there's a dancing stripper alien creature, I guess kind of like the dancing Twilight girls in Jabba's palace. Later, when the president sadly reflects by looking out the window, if you look closely, the song that he plays on this cable music channel is called Prisoner to My Emotions by Tucci Jenkins and the Jankinettes. That's a made-up song for the show. Now, some of you have also pointed out how Jerry's bathrobe has the Chinese character on the back, which translates to the word weak. Now, the best part to zoom and enhance on is obviously the White House fight. They revisit pretty much all of the hidden rooms promised by the president at the top of the episode, minus the slave coliseum. There's Truman's cocaine lounge, which has bowls of cocaine, which the president throws at Rick's face. There are also pictures of 30s and 40s era pinups on the walls. And while shooting wildly at the hologram Ricks, notice how the president takes out the two twins. The McKinley hooker dump shows up as well. You can see piles and piles of these sex worker skeletons, which is just frightening. This area is also filled with film sets depicting famous events from American history, suggesting they were all produced as conspiracy theories. There's the Apollo lunar module and the surface of the moon, suggesting the moon landing was faked. I actually went into a theory back in episode 8 around that guy, Mr. Loonis, that suggested Rick helped the government fake the moon landing, which is why he might have erased Morty's memory from his mind. There's also the car that JFK was assassinated in, a flying saucer, maybe the one from Roswell, and the World Trade Center towers from 9/11, which is kind of a callback to Rick's 9/11 memory in the season premiere.
Is that your memory of her out there? Between where you were on 9/11 and your favorite sports blooper?
There's also a set of George Washington crossing the Delaware, which is crazy because that was a painting depicting a battle in 1776, not a recent TV news story that anyone would consider a hoax. Like, all these things are just history, including the flying saucer. Now, there are some even more missable details when Rick and the president smash up through the floors. And by the way, hiding things between floors of a building is kind of a classic Simpsons gag. One floor has a satanic worship ceremony going on with a pentagram drawn in blood and candles. And my favorite detail this episode, there is also the skeleton of rapper Tupac Shakur. He's even flashing his iconic sign. Now, there are a few conspiracy theories around Tupac's death, like that he faked his own death or that he's living in Cuba, all of which are also true. Factual history. Okay, let's move on to the deeper meaning of this episode. Now, I know a lot of you were surprised that the season ended this way and not with another big high concept game-changing episode like the recent Evil Morty Citadel episode. And as much as I do agree with you, after thinking about it, I really do think that for Rick and Morty to survive as an animated sitcom after what we've seen in season 3, it really needed to be rescued from Rick. Rick must lose. The show has tried to do this, like at the end of season 2, with Rick turning himself in, but when season 3 started, this didn't stick. He broke out of prison, he ousted Jerry from the family, and Rick took over as the patriarch, leading the family on a series of over-the-top adventures that left the other characters feeling resentful and empty inside. suicide. Each of the season 3 episodes features Rick not really being emotionally invested in any of these goals, just cynically commenting his way through them, avoiding therapy by turning himself into a pickle, drunkenly assembling a death trap just to prove to Morty how lame superheroes are, reminding Beth that her childhood was a lie and she's better off detaching from her life just like he did. But the finale episode changed that. Rick finally cares about something, getting Morty a selfie with the president, and he cares about this so much that he achieves peace with a small nuclear state, and peace between Israel and Palestine, and battles relentlessly with the president just to get the selfie. And he only stops when Morty tells him that he already lost. Jerry has won back the family. Now, how did that happen? Because something else unprecedented for the show happened this episode. Events of the previous episode had a lasting emotional consequence, rather than just resetting like nothing happened. For Beth, the thought of being a clone sent her into a tailspin. And we still don't know whether she's a clone, but that's not the point. Clone or not, Beth needs simple Jerry to keep her sane. In the same way, the show's survival depends on Rick losing his dominance over the family. As fun as these crazy season 3 episodes have been, eventually nothing on this show will have emotional stakes, with Rick's absurdist cynicism setting the rules each episode. So instead, Rick and Morty needs Rick to be the outsider, an agent of chaos, the crazy grandpa in the garage who drags Morty and the others out of their status quo. And by forcing Rick to lose here at the end of the season, they can finally restore the show to the balance that it had in season 1. A grounded base reality, a dynamic force to break them out of it, and then a grounded base reality to come home to. Which characters do you wish made cameos in this season finale? Evil Morty, Tammy and Phoenix Person. I'm actually gonna do another video on all the unanswered questions that this season left us. But here, let me know your thoughts on this finale in the comments below, and we're gonna do another giveaway, Rick and Morty Funko Pop! To thank all you guys for watching and sticking around to the end and staying with us all season, just follow New Rockstars on Twitter and share a link to this video with the hashtag #NewRickstars, and we'll send some of you guys some of these vinyl figures. Guys, it has been so fun breaking down the season of Rick and Morty, but we still plan to make more Rick and Morty videos, just keep an eye out for those. You can also hit me up on Twitter at EAVoss and subscribe to New Rockstars for all of our Rick and Morty deep dives. And if you really want to support this channel so that, we can eventually avoid having to interrupt videos with these ads, you can contribute to New Rockstars on Patreon. Big thanks to all of our current donors, especially Kelly Hopper. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Bye.